Hey guys, welcome to our Wednesday webinar. We do this webinar on a weekly basis. And this series is specifically for our data science students at Mabili. So just to give you a bit more information about Mabili. Mabili is an online learning platform, I guess, but the benefits of going through Mabili is that they offer an end-to-end solution. So starting with recruiting candidates into programs. So we've got, and I'll go and look at what programs there are available, but there's a whole platform of content with syllabus and structured learning, and the benefits and differentiator in that regard with Mabili is that Mabili has a group of mentors. So there's a mentor for each program, and the mentors are there to assist and guide students through the course. So to help with any blocks or sticking points or any issues the students are having from a technical perspective with content with the course, but also on a bigger perspective with guidance and encouragement, motivation, and getting the students to the end of the course. And then at the end, which is the other differentiator which Mabili offers, is a whole recruitment aspect. So once students have gone through the course, by the end of the course, they will have built up a portfolio of work and projects that they've completed. And this is an evidence of capability, essentially, and skill. So that when potential employers come onto the recruitment platform, they can see what the students have done, and there's a much bigger chance of employment for those students who have a strong portfolio at the end of the course. So yeah, so that's essentially how Mabili works, and then the programs that are on offer. So this one specifically, this webinar is around our data science programs. I'm currently the data science mentor. I am a digital marketing mentor, but also data science, but relevant to this is the data science side. So programs are full stack developer, cybersecurity, data science, digital marketing, front-end web developer. And then we are slightly adjusting the format for data science and creating a separate course called Python for data science. And the reason for that is because Python has been included in the whole data science course, but it's a very large section in itself. So we've decided to separate that out and make Python its own dedicated course. And then we've also got the data science course, which doesn't focus as heavily on the core Python. So the Python for data science is a prerequisite for the data science before you can do the data science course. So yeah, so this is what we do, and these webinars are specifically, to talk to students and to help and to give a bit more context in terms of real, there we go, we've got a student logging in here. So to give students some exposure to real world projects and industry and, some of the work that I do. And so these webinars are not a repeat of course content, but rather an addition to course content, something a little bit extra, things that are interesting potentially to us and to the students and to whoever may be watching. So hello Daniel, hey Rafilwe, welcome. So Daniel.
Hello everyone, good day.
Yes,
Good to
yes.
see you again.
So as per usual, I just need to declare you guys these webinars are recorded. So yeah, just so you know, hello Rafilwe.
Ooh.
Mm,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon. You're live.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Danielle. It's been a minute.
Thank you for nice to meet you again online in a meeting.
Yeah, good to see you. Hello, Henry.
Hello Rafilwe. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks.
Excellent.
And you?
Good. Okay, cool. So you guys can go on to mute and I'm going to continue. So I was just talking a bit about Mabili and what Mabili does. So you guys can see my shared screen, right? It's the Mabili webpage.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Right. Okay, good. Okay, so that's a bit about what we're doing here. All right, so next. what I wanted to work on today was a project which I was working on mostly last year, and it was for a slightly different application, but the concept is the same. So what I wanted to do is make it a bit more lighthearted. And so the project initially, okay, here's another student come in. Welcome, Nguako. Okay, so what I was using this project for initially was to retrieve tweets from Twitter, from my Twitter profile, and extract them into an application, into a Python application, in order to, to work with that data. So to export it into an Excel document. One application I was using was to analyze tweets with OpenAI API. So run it through an AI prompt and then get feedback on that. And so yeah, the two applications on that, we were working on an MMA prediction sentiments analysis. So when the MMA fights were coming up, we would retrieve a whole bunch of tweets that were talking about the fights, and then we would get some idea of what the sentiment was. It wasn't really the biggest tool, the best tool for that. I mean, it was good at kind of analyzing sentiment, but I mean, you have to take into account the people who are posting and their qualifications, and you get a lot of rubbish in between. So, but anyway, it was an interesting exercise. And then another application for this was a student got hold of me on Facebook from I think Thailand, Indonesia, Thailand, one of those countries, and she wanted to do an analysis of elections back in 2020, 2021, of tweets around the time before they had the elections, and the goal of, and it was for a thesis for her university project, and the goal was to get an idea of the impact of social media on the outcome in political elections. So that's quite a big, serious one. So those are two examples that I actually used it for. But then I thought for today, what we could do, we could just look at tweets coming from the hashtag from the movie The Fall Guy. So yeah, Ryan Gosling. I know that I'll get lots of views just because I got Ryan Gosling on here. But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're basically going to use a Python application to programmatically do a search on Twitter. And we're going to get a whole bunch of tweets. We're going to extract them into JSON format files into the application, and we're going to convert those JSON files into Excel documents. So that's, the 1, 2, 3 of it. And obviously then you can do with that data what you will. I guess if they're all talking about the movie, then you could do also a sentiment analysis. I guess that might be quite an interesting one, see what people are saying about the movie. So yeah, I think that's a good introduction. So let's get going. All right, so what we've got here, which is obviously an important part of the application, is a search query. So the search query, just to make it simple, I'm just using the hashtag. Okay, so just to get the actual query, and we can go to advanced search. And then I'm just going to type in, just to show you as well. So Twitter has this advanced search, and it's got quite a few different options, even related to specific accounts. And then you've got filters based on engagements. You've got dates from and to. So there's a lot of that information. But all I'm going to put in here is the hashtag The Fall Guy. Okay. All right, so then search. Okay, so this is the query. This is the query that we are looking for. So this is what I'm literally going to copy and paste into my code. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that out of there, and then I'm going to close this browser, and I'm just going to paste it in here. Don't worry, there's a lot of code here. There's a lot that's been done. I will walk through it, but just as a reference for me for later, that's going to be my query. Okay. All right, so this is a Python application. So the very first thing that we need to do, obviously, when setting up a Python application is creating a virtual environment for that Python application. And the reason for creating a virtual environment is so that we can keep all the required packages. Sorry, I'm seeing that there's a chat request. Oh, okay. Sight for sore eyes. What's that, Rafilwe? Oh, Gosling. Okay.
Yeah, yes, you
So
highlighted them.
at least the students are approving of that. All right, good. Okay, we'll get back to Ryan in a moment. Okay. Yeah, so we create a virtual environment at the start of all our applications, and what I've done is I've also started creating a README file. This is also very good practice, and the README file is for two reasons. It's for anyone else who looks at your application and potentially wants to use it, like if you share it to GitHub and they want to fork it and do an extension on your project, then they can see. Also, if someone just wants to use it and maybe they're at a more beginner level, and you can give them instructions on how to set it up. And thirdly, it's for me. So when I come back to this project in 2 months' time and I've forgotten what it is that I was doing on here, then I've got all my notes here and then I can get back into it very quickly. Okay, so that's my virtual environment. And what I've done, by the way, this is not really a topic for this webinar, but you can see I've got a requirements.txt here. So it is possible when you create a virtual environment to save your package configuration, and you save that package configuration to your requirements.txt. So the reason you would do that is once you have activated your virtual environment, then you can install all the required packages with one line of code in your command line, which is this pip install -r requirements.txt. Then it just installs all the required packages that you needed. So this is a very good way of if you're uploading it once again to GitHub and then downloading it again on a fresh computer, or someone else is downloading it, they don't have to manually install each and every package. They can just do it with one line. Okay. All right. And then what we are going to talk about here, which is quite an interesting aspect to this project, is this Chrome debugger tool. So as I mentioned before, we are going to be browsing a web page, specifically the x.com web page, but I'm not going to be browsing it manually. I'm going to be doing it programmatically using Python code. Okay, so I will run the program and show you the Twitter page, and you'll see it all happening without me doing anything. So it like fills in the search query, presses the button, it scrolls, it does all of that, and it extracts everything. So it's literally the machine interacting with the browser, and I'm not doing anything. So that's obviously automating the process. The manual version of that would be me going and logging into x.com, writing the search query, clicking it, and then for each tweet going and copying it and pasting it and copying it. I mean, that's a ridiculous situation. So for me, I like efficiency and automation. So this project is right up my alley. Okay. So we've covered the requirements.txt. So these are the packages that have been installed in order to run this. And then let's look at our main application file, which is app.py, right? So app.py is generally what you would call whatever your main file in your Python program is. It's like your index.html or your index.php. That's the entry point of your program. So I do have other Python files in here. I've got a functions.py, and this is just definitions of my functions, and then I can use them in my app.py, or I can use them in amongst each other. So some of these functions call other functions, for example. Okay. So I do have two parts of this application. I've got app.py, and app.py is what actually does the scrolling. Well, it puts in the search query, it presses search, and it does the scrolling. of the tweets, and it saves the tweets into my into a separate directory which hasn't been created yet. So it creates a new directory, and then it saves all the JSON formats tweets in there. Then the next part of this program is called get tweets. So I actually do run this. And then what get tweets does is it extracts the data from the JSON object and creates Excel files for each, and it stores them in my data directory. So we'll see all that happening in a second. Okay, so then the next one is onto my variables. So in the same way, using a functions.py, let me just open that up again. In the same way that we use a functions.py, the functions.py extracts all that code into a separate file so that we don't bulk up the main program file. And you can see already the main program file, I mean, it's got quite a bit in it, but it would have been a lot worse if I didn't have code separated out into into my functions Python file. And you can see the way that we make use of that external library, if you want to call it, is we use import statements. So I'm saying from my functions file here, we're going to import functions. So I've created functions as a class, and then this class contains the definitions of the functions that I need. Okay. All right, and then the same thing with variables. So with my variables, I am extracting that information. So then the benefit of this is just also it's clean and easy to use. So if I just want to change the query, or if I want to change the dates that I'm doing the queries, so with the previous projects, and I've kind of disabled it for this, but for the previous projects, I only needed it from like January to June of 2021, for example. So that was the parameters in terms of dates. So I had settings for that here as well, but this doesn't matter in this project because I'm just getting the latest tweets. So variables extracts this information out so that every time I want to change something, I don't need to go into the code and change it there. It makes it a lot cleaner. And so that's why I've separated variables out to here. And as you can see, I can use my variables in the same way that I import my functions. So also an import statement, and I'm importing variables. You don't need to put the .py extension, it knows. And then you can see here, I've also put as var. So the reason for that is then I can say, right, I'm importing variables, but I don't want to have to type out variables every time I want to use it in my code. I can make a little an abbreviation. So I've chosen var. It can be anything. It can be v, va, whatever you want. And then wherever I've needed to access those variables, I've just done var dot. And then, so you can see how dot from dates, right? So from date, then it will get that value. Okay. Great. So that is the essential structure of my Python application. And I guess at this point, before I start running it, is there any questions or comments from anyone who's actually here today? There doesn't have to be, but if you do, this is an opportunity. Okay, good. All right, let me carry on. Okay, so now the next part in this process is to run or to be able to access my Chrome browser from my Python application. And the library that I use for this is called Playwright. So there are a couple of other Python libraries that do something similar. So it's just, your choice. But okay, so there's a description. Is a Python library to automate Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit with a single API. It's built to enable cross-browser web automation. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, web automation. What we mean by web automation is being able to control the web browser from a machine instead of my fingers. So yeah. Okay, so there it is. So then the code here is obviously using Playwright. So starting up Playwright, and then everything that I'm running in here is within context of this, of the Playwright setup that I've got. So Playwright connects to an actual instance of Chrome that I've got in debugging mode. So you have to open up a Chrome browser in debugging mode. I can't just open Chrome normally and then connect it like that. So I need to open it in debugging mode. And the way I open it up in debugging mode is from the command line. Okay, so I guess that's an automation in essence itself. So instead of opening Chrome by clicking on it, I'm opening it by typing in a command line command. And I've actually got information about that in my README. So from a Linux perspective, you can also create aliases for any pieces of code that's, or any command line commands that are long and that you don't want to have to retype every time, generally commands that you use quite often. So I've taken it the next step and I've just put this as information here, but I've created an alias on my Linux operating system. So my alias is, the short word is Chrome-debugger. That's what I type in. And when I type this, it runs this on my command line. Okay. So this is where the magic happens. So the command is Google Chrome. And because I've got Chrome installed on my Linux system, it recognizes that command. So that command means run Chrome. And then these are parameters or arguments. And it's saying here, remote debugging port. So it's saying open it in debug mode and use this port number for debug mode. And then when it runs, it's running it also in context of a user. So you can see it's created a directory here from when I've run it before. It's a hidden directory, but this is all information about me using that specific browser. So I guess it just creates a set of configurations for my settings and preferences and that kind of thing. But yeah, that's what you need to do to run it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just type it in here. Let's see, Chrome debugger. Okay, so it's open it up in my other window. I'm just going to drag it across. So this is the Chrome browser that command line command has just opened. And you can see it looks slightly different. Like you can see even the cursors are different. It looks a bit rudimentary. This is it's got a bit of a developer kind of feel to it. So yeah, but anyway, this is a light version, I guess. It's Chromium of a Chrome browser running, which has been started up from my command line. So it's basically, you can see that it's still waiting there, which means that it hasn't started it up and exited it. It started it up and it's waiting. So anything that happens in relation to this Chrome browser will be outputted here in this terminal window as well. Okay. So now that we have the Chrome browser up, what I'm going to do is see if I can just divide this window up so that we can see both at the same time. Oh, okay, that doesn't really stick, so I'm going to have to manually resize it. All right, good. Okay, that's pretty clear. Okay, so what I am going to do manually is I'm going to do for this is just to log into, I'm going to browse to x.com and I'm going to log in. So, all right, so it's already remembered my credentials and it's logged in. So I am now right. Okay, so I'm now on X and I'm logged in and I'm ready to run my program. So The problem with this is that I can't run any more commands here while while this is there. So what I do need to do is just open up a second terminal window, and then I can run my command. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to run my application. So the way we run a Python application, python3. So that Python command varies depending. If you're on Windows, it might just be Python. But just, yeah, for your operating system, obviously, just find out what is the correct command. So, so Python and then app.py. So I'm using the Python command, which means run Python, and then I'm running my app.py file because that's my main program file. And with a little bit of luck, when you press enter, see. Okay, so this is running on its own. I haven't done anything. All I did was run that my Python program, and you can see that it's created a search query, and it pressed search, and it scrolled down, and let's see how far it is now. Okay, so there it is. So what I did in one of the settings is that I set it to get a maximum of 10 tweets. Yeah, okay, great. So I just want to also put a disclaimer here as well. Scraping tweets like this, it's potentially not a great idea in terms of large volumes. Like, you do need to just be aware of privacy policies, all of that kind of thing. Twitter does have an API that you can pay for, where they give you API endpoints in order to extract tweets. So this is a bit of a hack, but I'm not really this webinar. The purpose is not to show you how to hack Twitter, right? At all. This is just an exercise in web scraping, which is something that we use in data science. Thank you, Rafule. It's very funny. Yeah. I know they're watching us. They're watching us right now. So we just got to tread carefully. So the worst, I mean, I have done this a lot, and the worst thing that happens is they can detect when you are, running a lot of queries and a lot of pages, and then it just blocks you for like 30 minutes or whatever, and then lets you back on in. But I've never had the FBI arrive at my door, and I've never haven't been banned or blocked permanently or anything like that ever. So yeah, do not try this at home. This is for experimental purposes only, and I take no responsibility for, yeah, anything that might happen if you don't obey the rules. Okay, anyway, so cool. So what we've got here is something very exciting. I just ran that Python command, and it's put the search query in, printed, and extracted a whole lot of tweets. And we can see the evidence of our work. If I just close and look on the inside here, now you can see there's a new directory that it's created. So it named the directory based on the date range that I put in. So I put a from date and a to date. And the reason I did that was because I was extracting tweets from multiple dates for my previous project. So I would go one by one and set date ranges, and then it would create a folder for each date range of tweets that I extracted. So that's the reason for that. Let me just actually close these. W. Okay, so now let's take a look at the format that it extracts it into. So we've got here, as I said, it extracts it into JSON format. And the reason for that is only because that's the way that I can find it if I go into the browser, fetch. Let's see. I just want to see if I can show you the packets that it's the JSON packets that it sends. Okay, so anyway, long story short, what it does is that when Twitter responds to a search query, it actually sends back these JSON objects with tweets in it, and then the website extracts those tweets that it gets back from the server and displays them on the page. So what I've done essentially here is just intercepted that, and I haven't scraped in the traditional sense from the web page itself, but rather I've extracted the JSON objects that have been sent back from the Twitter server. Okay, and that's what I've saved into my project application here. So a JSON is JSON, right? So that's a JSON file, and it's JavaScript object notation. That's what it stands for. So what we've got here is we've got one outer parent object, which is called data, and within data sits the tweet. So if we expand data, and then let's just, okay, so we've got inside there's another object called search by rule query, and then inside we've got search timeline, and inside we've got timeline, and then we've got two sibling objects inside timeline. So we've got instructions and we've got response objects. So you would assume that instructions would be information about the request, and then response objects would be the actual tweets. But let's have a look anyway. Okay, so inside instructions, it's saying that these are timeline entries. And then it's giving you information about each entry. Okay, header, footer, etc., etc. All right, so let's scroll down a little bit and then look at the response objects. Okay, I'm just going to open this all in one big there we go. Okay, so inside our response objects, you can see that thanks for your help. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So maybe the tweets are actually in instructions. Let's have a look quick again. Okay. Okay, so this looks more like where the tweets are at. So inside my instructions object is I've got a whole bunch of entries, and each of these entries is a tweet. So you can actually look inside here, and you can see you can kind of make sense of what's going on here, right? So we've got this URL Twitter universal pictures. So I would assume maybe that's okay, right? So that's the user. So it's giving you information about the user that posted that, and this I guess would be the user's URL, right? And then there's an image, maybe it's a profile pic. The description of the user is universal pictures. So this all makes sense because we just did a search around a TV show, right? So that does make sense. That's probably an advert. So we've got another Twitter profile. So there's some information. Here's some text. Let me just put on wrap. Okay, so anyway, the point is that we can see that it's extracted a whole lot of tweets. And if we go up, these are the tweets that it's extracted, right? So let's block. I don't, guys, this is not based on my searching habit, I promise. But anyway, let's block these people. Thanks, Amy. You're a star. Okay, so if you were to actually scroll back, and you could match the text on the tweets that you're seeing here with the JSON objects here, but I'm not going to go through that whole process because we don't really need to, but just to say that they do match. Okay, so I have successfully extracted tweets. Now we can take the next step to make them a little bit more easy, or a bit easier to read. And the way we're going to do that is with the next part, and the next part of my application is get tweets. So what get tweets does is it runs through the JSON objects and extracts them into Excel files in my data folder. So let's go ahead and run that quick and see what happens. Okay. So just to say as well that we're done now with the browser. We're not accessing the browser anymore. We're actually just working with the data that I've now extracted from the previous step. So let's go Python 3 and alrighty, let's see. Okay, great. So what it's done, you can see magically and immediately on the left-hand side here, it's created an Excel file. And let's open up that Excel file and see what it's got to say for us, say to us. See if I can open this up from here. Okay, no, I can't. All right, so I need to go into here from my file directory. Give me a moment while I access that quickly. The reason I'm putting my file explorer out of view is because I've suddenly become aware of like the fact that it's probably not a good idea to show all of your stuff on a public video. So that's why I'm quickly just doing this off screen here. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just browsing to my application from my Windows file explorer. So I'm just going into there and then, yeah, that's okay to show. Let's bring that into view. Okay, so here is my Python application, and it's exactly the same files as you see in Visual Studio Code. So these were the first JSON objects that I got. And now in data, I've got the Excel file that was generated and created by my application. So I can now open that. And what we should see is something that makes sense. So we can only hope. Okay, so we do have tweets. And what the next step could be is maybe to separate them out into columns, maybe date and description, but they're here. So let me just format this or do a bit of word wrap on here. Okay, enable editing. Okay, word wrap. Okay, cool. Yep. All right. So what we've got here is we've got the list of tweets. And each tweet has got a date, and then it's got the tweet contents on here. So like I was saying, now you've got it in an Excel format, and this can be anything. Obviously, this is just a fun example. But like you could run this through AI maybe, or yeah, I mean, it's limited only by your imagination. Yeah, so I see that we have, yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you guys. So we do have a bit of time left if there's anyone who has a question or maybe another query that they'd like to run. Maybe, yeah, we can do another example if you want. Thank you. Anyone? This is your time to be famous, guys. Can we do, so I've got a question from one of the students. Can we do the same with Amazon data? So I'm assuming what you mean is being able to browse onto Amazon.com, yeah. And extract product information, I guess. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'm not a robot. Okay, JX. Yeah, so you could. All right, so then in Guaco, the difference would be that you would have to see exactly how this website is outputting information. The benefit of this is is that you also don't need to be logged in order to get information for this. So yes, 100%. We could do this with Amazon. I wouldn't be able to do it right now. I'd need to set it up a bit because the way I've set it up to extract tweets would be slightly different, and each website has got a different format. So in terms of web scraping, you could definitely you could make it scroll automatically, and then you would look at what are the HTML attributes and tags or classes for each product that you want to scrape. So you would essentially look for unique identifiers. So that's interesting. I guess here's cards client, right? So let's see where we are. All right, let's go to a more generic page. Let's go to gaming accessories, headsets. Okay, so I've gone to a more generic like shop page because this I think would be a bit easier to scrape data from. So what you would do is just go in there and inspect and just have a look at, like I said, any identifying classes. So you've got an A- section. We've got a widget ID main search results. So you would kind of narrow it down by your ID and classes, and then that's how you would be able to extract it by browsing from here. And you could still use the Playwrights Python library in order to do that. Yeah. Yep. So Amazon definitely would work. Okay, cool, guys. If there's no more questions, we can absolutely wrap up here. And okay, can we check how many people have downloaded R for data science PDF? I'm not sure that's specifically related. Can we check how many people? No. So, okay, so the information that you would use a web scraper for is literally whatever's publicly available. So if there's a website which has information of it, then you can scrape that. So I think analytics data and that kind of behind the scenes back end data you wouldn't have access to. Yeah. Cool. Thank you for the question. Okay. All right, guys. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here today. And just, okay, let me just share again. Sorry, I just wanted to give one more piece of information. So these webinars are published to the Mabili YouTube channel. So I just want to go into that super quick. And so everyone here as well, please subscribe. I'll paste the link into the chat here, the webinar chat. Let me just switch accounts quickly. Mabili Learning. Studio. I'll go into channel. Okay. So all the webinars are uploaded into the playlists, the webinar playlist on Mabili Learning. So you guys, I am going to copy and paste into the chat here. There you go. Please go through now, all you guys who are watching, and go and subscribe to this. So if you subscribe, then you're going to get notifications about each webinar as I post them up. And there's not only webinars, I've also posted other videos, which are kind of like helpers and instruction videos. These other videos come from specific questions that students have, but they are very good questions and they are generic solutions to generic challenges that students might have, especially students beginning in the data science realm. So yeah, there's a lot of value in there. Go to the Mabili Learning YouTube channel and subscribe. Thanks very much, guys. And then, so I will be posting this. We have a webinar every week. So then I will post them pretty much during the day tomorrow. So they'll be available, within the next 24 hours.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherdson. Enjoy your day, the rest of
Thank
your
you so
day and
much.
week
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
All the
You're
best
very,
for
very
everyone.
welcome. All right, guys. Cheers, cheers. Thank you.